Today, we have a new thing that's going to be happening called After Chat. And after much deliberation about what we should name that, I felt like that was probably just the most obvious thing to name it. We're going to chat after the service. Call it After Chat, huh? And so afterwards, typically, folks just talk and hang out, and the ongoing joke is if you made awkward eye contact with somebody, like that's your sign to talk to them, But I understand, at the end of this, sometimes we're all just in different places, and we may not feel the energy to actually approach anybody. Or maybe you have a low social battery and you're like, time for a nap now, That's totally great. But for some of us, it seems like we like to process what's been coming up for us in this space. And so we wanted to create just a little container for that to happen with some intentionality and not just kind of be like, find somebody. We want to actually curate that space and emphasize the collective part of Current. And so afterwards, after the service, it's totally optional. You don't have to do it. But if you would like to talk about some things that are coming up for you or just chat with some folks, Daniel is going to be leading that today. And just like we did for some other thing that we did, just grab your chair and we're just going to circle up over here and just have some conversation low key. We were talking about if we wanted there to be questions for whatever, and I'm like, the last thing I want is to do some church thing where it's all right, here's 3 questions about what the pastor talked about, Doesn't matter what I said. What's coming up for you? What themes, what thoughts, what ideas, what images is this curating within you? That's what we want to talk about. And so nothing's off the table here. If you're new around here, you'll know that there is nothing too weird. We are very well acquainted with the woo. Sometimes we had 2. Woo woo. We are quite that. Not afraid of it. Sometimes no woo. Sometimes I don't want any woo. I don't need that. I'm feeling like 1 woo today. I don't know where you're at. So after chat, grab that afterwards, chair and meet up. And we have this space. I extended the space here a little bit. So we end around in between 11 to 11:15-ish. So we've been looking more like 11:15, but we have this space to circle up until noon, so 45 minutes to drop in. And then by all means, if things are going well, you might want to go out to eat or do whatever. And something with this too is I had somebody recently talk to me about why we meet on the 1st and 3rd of the month, and we don't do this every Sunday. I was talking to somebody on the phone this last week, and he's like, do you eventually want to do every week? And I'm like, at one point in time I thought about it, but I don't think so anymore. That's not been the consensus from the collective. It feels like a good rhythm. And my sense is, and where things could always change, but it's a good rhythm to create space in our life. Because I think the last thing you need is something else that you gotta get to every single week to do, and it feels like a task. And so we hope to just have this be a space that it's it doesn't happen every Sunday, and sometimes it doesn't work out with our schedules or whatever, but the intention there is to hopefully give us some space in our schedule and in our lives that is quite crowded. What's up, buddy? So just wanted to bring that up. And that might change in the future. I don't know. I think it's kind of like a we thing, not a me thing for how we shake that one down. So what do we all feel up for? I don't know. But right now, we have that, and I pointed this person to I put a frequently asked questions page on the website. So if you're curious about a lot of our philosophy and things or whatever, you might want to peep that and kind of see where we're at. Because that's what we're hoping to do, is create this sort of contemplative space that is a opportunity to take a rest and a break from the chaos and all of the things that are consuming our minds, our hearts, even our bodies in terms of our busy schedules and things, and to carve out just an hour-ish of time to be able to recalibrate, to bring ourselves back into a sense of balance and harmony, and potentially allow ourselves to see our life from a different perspective and vantage point. So, what's up, Olivia and fam? So I just want to just let you know that's what we're at. We're trying to create this contemplative environment to be able to recalibrate to something that's true. We often refer to this as the mystic expression, and I tell some people that we're like a mystic church, and they're like, so you guys are into Dungeons and Dragons, or what's the deal on the mystic thing, And Especially my dad, he's like, weird. Are you doing magic? What is this, Mystic, from our tradition, from our interpretation, just means a direct experience with. That there's no gatekeepers between you and the divine, that you are in the divine is in you. And what we hope to do is to create a space to experience that as fundamentally true at the core of who you are. So the mystic expression is about an actual experience of knowing, an inner knowing. So everything that we do is not necessarily for entertainment purposes or to get you to believe a particular way. We don't have like a conversion program or anything like that. It's about helping and creating environments to experience that divinity that's in you and just helping to excavate that's already true. So that's what we're up to. We are a nonprofit organization, 501c3. So we exist on tithes, offerings, donations. And that's something that, I've not really talked about very much because it's awkward and I don't want to talk about it. But as I continue to move more into this space and, Lindsay and I, we give to Current and it's very vulnerable to be sharing all of this with you right now. So I appreciate you going there with me. But we really believe in what's happening in this expression. We really believe that there is an opportunity to do something fresh and different, integrating some of the places that many of us have come from a Christ tradition, but not limited to that, including the perennial wisdom that's available. And so bridging these two worlds of my old, that can be fresh, but church Christian background with a lot of the spiritual community that I've been involved with, this intersection that happens here, I think there's something really beautiful that can take place, that is taking place, and something that we can be an example for people that reach out to me from all over the place. Like, how can I get involved with something like this in my town? And I joked at Easter, well, I don't know, in Omaha, Nebraska, you're going to be hard pressed. But if you want to do something, so we've been seeking how we can help people start spaces like this too. And so we believe this is a movement that's growing. So I want to invite you to make contribution to help continue to sustain and to grow what's happening through this space. So with that, I want to invite us just to an intention and an invocation of the heart and bring us to a space together, because what's really important, more important than anything else, is that we posture ourselves in a position to align with the presence of God that is already here in this space. And so, Lindsay, do you mind to light our candles for us? We light these candles symbolically because we would like to invite ourselves. I grew up in a tradition that had this mantra, "Come, Holy Spirit." I grew up charismatic, and we would all sit around with somebody with an acoustic guitar or delay pedals if you were really cool. And we would just repeat this mantra, "Come, Holy Spirit," over and over until something happened, thinking as if God was somewhere else. We were conjuring God. This is a little bit different of a take. When we say, "Come, Holy Spirit," or whatever it is that we're doing, we're bringing ourselves in tune with what's already the atmosphere that's here. Jesus talks about the kingdom of God, which means the realm of divinity that's already at place if you have an ear to hear and an eye to see. So we light these candles symbolically. We raise them above, symbolizing setting our minds above where Christ is seated. Where the divine mind is. We invite in this moment, God, your presence to tune us in to what is already true. Allow the light to burn away all of the things that keep us in our delusions, in our illusions, in our mixed up sense of separateness. We invite your illumination to come into our mind, into our heart, into this space. As we collectively posture our heart in this way of openness, We allow, God, your presence to be made known and tangible in our midst. We set any anxiety, uncertainty, fear, doubt, guilt, shame. We just set that on the altar of our hearts to allow your divine love to come, to absolve it all. Help us this morning to realize our unity. Help ground us out. That we would experience peace within us so that we can become people of peace in this world. Be with us in our time of meditation, of prayer. Help us to see with a new lens today. So be it.
All right. So I'd love to just invite us to begin to kind of open your eyes if they're closed right now and just start to look around the room. Just observe, maybe spotting things on the floor and up above, even looking behind you as well. Just allowing yourself a moment to give your body the safety and the knowing that it is physically safe right now. Looking up above, maybe rolling your shoulders back, adjusting your spine. Good. And when you're ready, you can begin to close down your eyes or just finding a soft, gentle gaze forward. We'll start by taking in a few deep breaths, breathing in through your nose. And letting it go very slowly. Breathing in. And seeing if there's any spaces within your body you can maybe adjust to become a little bit more comfortable, maybe straightening your spine, adjusting your pelvis. Rolling your neck, softening your belly, really inviting your full presence into the present. Seeing if you can fill your low belly with your breath to start. to move to your chest and releasing out. And I'd like to invite you to move down into your heart space, in the middle of your chest. If it supports you in connecting, you can place a hand on your heart. Or just simply bringing your awareness right at that center point. And just feeling your heartbeat. And you just ask God to support us in attuning to the Spirit. Within that center point of our heart, helping us see from this place, to feel, to know, to trust. And just spend some time here listening. Taking a deep inhale, bringing more intentional breaths to your body. Very slowly bringing some gentle movements back into your body. Maybe starting with your fingers and your toes, twisting around your wrists and your ankles. Coming back into more wakeful awareness and presence. You can begin to flutter your eyes open, adjusting more to the light. Welcome back.
Thank you, Lindsay. I'm going to be really honest with you. That was way too short. I was in total rebellion and revolt when you were asking me to open my eyes. No. I don't want to do that yet. And like whenever you harmonize the bowls together, I don't know, there's like something in that frequency of harmonizing them is just really, it's really good. I don't know if anybody else feels that too, but I just love that the bowls singing together almost, it's really, really beautiful. It's like we have our sound healer front row happening right now, all in denim. It's so good. Oh, man. I'm, struggling to come back here a little bit, but we'll get started. So I made this, the flyer this week with the eye, and just because I tend to dig that as a symbol in general. But just learning how to see is what we're going to be talking about for a few minutes today. Learning how to see, the art of learning how to see, how to discern. I started a training for spiritual direction, which is super cool. It's something that I've been doing for a while, but felt like it was like time to have some real proper training and get a certification, go legit, man. And so I enrolled into that with this institute called the Hayden Institute, and they're like contemplative spirituality, mystic. I come from traditionally a Christian background. The guy that started it, Bob Hayden, was an Episcopal priest. But then he was very influenced by Jungian psychology and had a lot of Jungian analysis coming through. And so as soon as I saw that, I'm like, contemplative, Jungian, yes. No shade on some of the other places that I've looked at, but I'm like, I don't know that I really want to study the early Christian desert fathers. Like, I'm just kind of bored with that. Like, let's talk about the shadow and archetypes and all of these things, and pull on my contemplative spirituality for getting still, yes, and for listening. But when it comes to bringing framework, I would like some of those other scenes that Jung offers us. And so it's been cool starting that. And last week we had an intensive that was all weekend long. And so about this time I was in an intensive. And it was interesting experience, but even like spiritual direction in general, I just was thinking back this past week, because part of it was you had to share your own spiritual autobiography. I'd mentioned that at Easter, and I feel like for anybody, that's like a really fun and interesting thing to do, is take your own autobiography. Where have I been that has brought me to this point now? That was a really cool and difficult, but yet very encouraging thing to write out, having to put it all down and limit it to 3,500 words. At first I'm like, gosh, that's kind of a lot. And then you write, stream of consciousness style, and you're like, 10,000 words. I have a lot to condense. And it's interesting too how like whole seasons of your life, whole seasons of my life were reduced to a sentence sometimes in this autobiography. It's like, wow, that took forever. That was such like a long, grueling experience, and now it's one sentence in a paper, you know? And just some perspective there of like looking back. Like this whole thing that I went through with a friend of mine he invited me to work with him, and I started working with him, and it didn't work out like we both thought and whatever, and I moved on, and I'm like, all of like the pain and frustration and difficult conversations and early morning coffee just was reduced to sometimes you realize you're better friends than colleagues. And that's all it was. All right, a year of my time for that sentence. Great. So interesting, like when you start to look at that. And part of this exercise was looking about like how did this come into your life that you would like to pursue this path of being a spiritual director. And I was reflecting on it in my own life, and it's interesting because then it connected, as it would, in a synchronistic way to another thing that happened in another part of the intensive that I'll talk about in a second. That's not just important for me, I think for us. But I was looking back at this, and I was like, okay, it's one of those like one sentence moments. This one got a paragraph, I think, but back in 2022, I was doing a project with a friend, and it required me to go up to Venice Beach a lot. He was doing things on Abbot Kinney Boulevard there, if you have any interest in some of those like pop-ups and things that happen around there. And so I was going up there, and I was involved in this project for like a year, and I remember specifically just being a part of things that were cool. Like it looked cool. It had great marketing, you know, and you were in the right places, doing the right things, saying all the right words, you know. And there are great things that came from this season of time at least as I reflect on my life, whenever I pan for the gold of seasons, I'm like, you know, there was always great and not great stuff. You know, during that time I met Rihanna, actually, so that's cool. I wouldn't have met Rihanna initially. Maybe we would have. We have some people that cross paths, but, you know, I met great people during that time, had great experiences, and if you can survive some of the stuff, you look back and you're like, man, some of the most difficult, hardest parts have got the most playtime in the autobiography. You know, and some of them only get a sentence, and some of them get more. And it's like you don't really know while you're going through it. You're just feeling your way. And I was reflecting back I was walking back to this pop-up space that we had from my friend's apartment. And at this point in time, I started to just feel really out of gas for the whole thing. And many of you probably have been in these seasons in your life. Maybe you're in one right now where you're like, you know, I can't name it yet, but this chapter seems to be coming to a close. You can start to feel it. Like when you're reading a good book, there's some things that are buttoning up, you know, sometimes in some of the chapters. And you're reading it and you're like, oh, like this is starting. I don't quite know what's next, but I know this ain't it. You been there? And I remember back in this time, late summer 2022, I started to feel like, you know, this isn't the right fit for me, and I don't really know what to do next. And I was just kind of holding it openly. And I was walking back down the street to the space, and out of nowhere, it was just like a kind of conscious, but kind of not. I don't know. There's just like this kind of knowing. If it's happened to you, you know what I'm talking about. If not, you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. But it was just like, spiritual direction just like came in to the zeitgeist in that moment. It was just like, okay, like this is something that I should pay attention to. And it had a sense of weight to it. There was like a depth about it. I had no idea about this. I grew up Protestant. We don't know what spiritual directors are. Our Catholic and Episcopal brothers and sisters know what that is. But us, it's like pastoral care. It's the closest thing, which is like basically keep your phone on, and if somebody has a problem at 3 a.m., like they're going to give you a buzz and need you to, you know, talk them through it, you know, which is a great thing to do. But it was more like crisis counseling, you know. It wasn't like actually this sense of spiritual direction, which I know it is now. But at the time, I didn't really know what that was, but I just felt like that came to me with a sense of like weight to it. Because in contrast, what I was actually doing felt extremely hollow. It had all the things that looked like it should be great and spiritual on the outside. But the truth is, I was just engaged in like spiritual consumerism. And I remember distinctly, we were doing an event and these people coming through, and I remember it was like something changed, and whenever I would look into the eyes of people, I saw this deep longing and searching for something true and real, and here I was with everybody saying, we can help you find that, and we didn't do it consistently. It was more bait and switch, it was more surface, it was just more fluff, and it did not feel like there was any substance in the things that I was a part of or involved with. And so looking into the eyes of these people, I remember being like, people are looking for something real and tangible, and we don't have anything to nourish them here. We really don't. And then you start to look at, wait a second, everybody is just mirroring back to me. I'm looking for something real and deep and true, and I keep looking in all the wrong places for it. And I'm wondering why I'm feeling empty, hollow, void, without meaning and purpose. Because I keep looking to everybody else to give that to me. And I go to all the places that have it all dialed in. They're supposed to be, if you're a Christian, you go to a place in the church space and you realize, oh man, everybody's human there. Crazy. And then you go to like your spiritual circle and you got the people that, they're enlightened, right? And you look, you're like, oh God, they're human too. And you find that like the beautiful thing is that we are all in the human experience together seeking something deep, meaningful, and true. There isn't necessarily, there are people that have been around the block that can show you the way, and I think that's what spiritual direction is. It's like, yeah, I've lived in this neck of the woods for a while, this spiritual neck of the woods. I can show you around a little bit. When we moved here 10 years ago, I started selling motorcycles, and at that time, a decade ago, I remember coming in with a Revolution Roasters cup, and I had a Oside local tell me, we don't go to Revolution, we go to Captain's Grounds, And I was like, okay, note taken. I didn't go to Revolution for years after that. I was like, I'm not going to be a kook. No, not me. You guys are already making fun of me. I wanted to try surfing, and one of the guys was like, do you even know how to swim? You moved here from Indiana, I'm like, good point. I did end up doing that for a couple years, but and I was a kook, and I sucked, and got hurt, and whatever. I'm like, I have enough hobbies, motorcycles and music, that's enough for me. Anyways, but you go to places and you realize that there are locals in the area that know some places, they know some things, they can tell you some places to go and some places not to go. They're like, don't go to Rubio's, go to Vallarta, kind of that kind of thing. You can go to Rubio's if you want to, that's fine. This is not about Rubio's. They are actually local, man. Why are you? All right. The point is that everyone, even though they've been in an area, let's bring it back to the metaphor of spiritually speaking, even though they've been in places for a while, we're all still learners at some level. We're all still human at some level. We are all still doing our best, and that's why here we're all just walking each other home. I'm still a person on the path like anyone else. There are people that can help us learn to listen better to our life, yes. But ultimately, we are the only ones that can have that authority in our life to act on what we are listening to and see what we're seeing. And so anyways, thanks for going on that little rabbit trail. Don't know where that came from, but here we go. I had that spiritual direction thing drop in on me, and I didn't really do much with it, but I did eject myself from that project and that whole crew of people, and I was like, I just bless you, but I'm going to go do something different now. And I was really in a weird space, and didn't really know what was next, didn't really know what to do with the spiritual direction thing, and put it kind of on the shelf, and just would do it with some people from time to time. But spent the next little bit of time, sometimes if you're going into a new chapter, you're just kind of doing with whatever's next in front of you. And that's a really important lesson in surrendering. You're just like participating with all that's coming up. So anyways, I've been doing this kind of like intermittently throughout the years. And recently I've had that like nudge again. If I had told you guys about like, there's been this like shift that I feel like has been coming, and part of that, and I've had people in my life to sit with me and help me sift through that, and I want to just encourage you, as this is spiritual community. Obviously I sit up here twice a month and just get open about my own life and invite you into some more universal themes in my particular experience, but like I had people in my life that would sit with me that are in this room right now that I won't look at and put on the spot. But I had people sit with me and hear me and not judge me and just allow conversation to happen to help pan for the gold that's down in there. And I'm just so grateful for that, to be able to be in this space. And through that process, I learned that, I do want to lean more into this spiritual direction thing. So I found this Hayden Institute deal and got started with them. And my friend encouraged me and was like, I can see that in your life. And that's why it's good to have people in your life. They can be like, I can see that coming through. Not that we're giving people the authority to be like, what does the Bible have to say about, just people are like, nah, man, I kind of feel you. I know you. I can sense what your strengths and gifts are and what you're not doing. And some of the things I was sharing with this person, they're like, yeah, you do keep trying to push a rock uphill. You should probably stop doing that in your life and do this. So I enrolled into this thing, and we did this 4-day intensive, and it's on the East Coast. It's in Asheville, North Carolina. So I had to get up at 5:30 in the morning for these intensives to start. And I felt like such a dork the first day because we started later in the day, and they're like, okay, well, we're going to be on here on Zoom, the next morning. But it's 5:30. Our time, it's 5:30 to 6 is the meditation time. So they do this invocation and this meditation. And I was raised my little hand on the Zoom thing, and I'm like, hey, is the meditation required or optional, And the guy didn't know how to respond to me, and I'm felt so dumb that I'm like, okay, here I am, I paid all this money to come get trained, but can I sleep for a half an hour more, And he's like, dude, do whatever you want. It was one of those kind of things. And I'm like, oh, the first time that I introduced myself to this large this large Zoom group is do I have to go? We walked around the village afterwards. I'm like, I'm so dumb, dude. I can't believe that. It's this big calling. You're finally doing it. And I don't can I sleep in? So stupid. Anyway, so we're doing these different things, and I got to tell you, some of the workshops, I was like, I can see why we're doing this, but why is this important? And so often we move through life going, yeah, and why is it important? Because everything is screaming for our attention all the time. Our social media feeds, the world, everything that's going on. And it's why is this important to me? Some of you are sitting here this morning going, and why is this important to me? I understand. We'll get there. It's slow but sure process. And I'm sitting there kind of judging the thing, I'm paid this money to be here, and they're supposed to make me a real spiritual director, and how does this fit into that, and whatever. And the guy that's leading it, I'm like, is he qualified for this? And all the stuff that you go through in your mind. And this 84-year-old Jungian analyst speaks on the second night, and he was a pastor until his 40s, and then just through his own sort of deconstruction process, left the pastorate and pursued becoming a Jungian analyst. And I'm like, and he's 84 years old up here. And this dude, he just wrote his third book or whatever. And I'm like, this guy's in his 80s, rolling out series of books. I'm like, this is admirable, And dude is just not pulling any punches, coming after all of it. Anything you can think of, he's coming after it. And I'm like, I'm here for this. This is worth the price of admission right here. Because when you're in the place of wisdom, you're like, this guy's been around some spaces and knows that. So I say it all to say that the reason that I could lean into him is because he cut through the noise of everything, named things for what they were, was honest about his own path, his own leaving of his own faith, his church that he had been a part of for all of these years, to go and to take a completely different approach to life for his second half of life. And I'm like, a guy that puts it on the line, I can follow that, He's learned some things over the years, and that cuts through the noise of everything. And I chimed in on one of the things they were asking, on the next morning, they're like, what are some of the things that help ground you and center you, not only when you're working with someone in direction, but just in general in life? Like, what helps you kind of like get out of your head and your ego and all of that? And I wasn't going to share this part, but I guess I have a couple extra minutes, so I'll use your time, I suppose. I shared this story about what grounds me, and this is very profound, and it's been very meaningful to me over the years, so I'm going to share this story with you, hoping that you'll do the best with it, okay? Potentially integrate it if you want. I grew up a pastor's kid, and my dad always told me a story of a conference that he was a part of. I was born in Miami, Florida. We were living in Miami, and he went up to Orlando for this conference. And there were some people kind of sitting in the chairs, and the worship team was practicing beforehand. And there was these couple worship leaders in the denomination that I come from, the movement that I come from. And one of the guys just kept going on and on about, all these big tours that he'd been on and playing around the world and gloating about these big churches that he's played at and this record deal that he's going to be getting with this Christian music thing, and just going on and on. This other worship leader, who was just noodling on his guitar the whole time, finally just puts his guitar down and he says, "Cut the shit, man." So that's become a mantra for me. Anytime I feel like I'm aggrandizing or I'm not present or I'm trying to make myself bigger than what I am or I'm trying to make this something that it's not, the spiritual consumerism, whatever it might be, I remind myself to cut the shit. I think that is an actual theological technical term. I learned that one in Bible training. So I just give that to you if you would like to use that. Which I will do now. But this guy who was speaking knew firsthand what it was like to cut through all of that. And when you're in the presence of someone who knows how to cut through it, you realize you're in the right place. And I'll land this plane here. I'm not used to starting at 10:05. Interesting. We're in this workshop, and it's another one of those where I'm like, what am I doing here? I could be hanging out with the fam. It's the weekend, whatever. And it was a creative project, which you would think would be, kind of interesting to me. But for some reason, I just wasn't feeling it that day. Not enough woos happening inside of me to be there. And this wonderful older woman was sharing the different projects that we were going to be doing. And she said, just to get the workshop started here, I just want you very quickly to scan around your room. It's interesting, you had everybody scan around. We didn't plan that. She said, scan around the room, and the first thing that just catches your attention, take a second, go and grab the item. And so I did what she said, and I looked up, and I saw these glasses. While they do look pretty cool, these are 3D glasses for seeing Super Mario at Regal only a few days earlier. So we went and saw the new Mario Galaxy, whatever it is, and we ended up, Ezra brought back some glasses, of course, and so I saw these glasses, and he was playing with them a few days earlier, and I had told him to put them away, but they were still there, which is not uncommon, just saying. All the parents said amen. And so it's interesting. I had these glasses and I put them on, and again, they do look quite trendy. But I thought it was interesting that, like right now, it looks normal. Like nothing looks different to me. You all look completely clear and normal. But somehow, whenever I have these on and I'm sitting in the theater, Yoshi's nose is right here. And fireballs are coming at me, and, Peach is jumping through the air, and I can see it, There's all these incredible things happening to me, but whenever I'm not looking at the screen, it just looks like normal life. So I grabbed these, and she's like, how do these glasses relate to your spiritual life? And I was like, yo, this is kind of crazy, because I'm like, initially, what just intuitively came, she's like, don't think about it too much. Just start saying what's coming up for you right now. And I'm like, When you're wearing these glasses, you're walking through life and everything looks normal and mundane. It's absolutely normal. But when you see something that's designed for these glasses, it becomes real, it's tangible, it becomes 3D in an engaging way. And I started to think about how so much of life is about learning how to see with the proper lens. That whenever you see the person, whenever you see the circumstance, when you see yourself in the way, it comes alive. It pops out of the screen. There's something there that's tangible and real and noticeable in a way that is unlike the other. Similarly, too, if you look at the screen without the glasses, it's completely distorted and you can't make out anything. And so I was thinking about this, and as I was just had my 5 minutes of articulation with it, I'm like, it's about learning to see with the lens of the Spirit what's truly wanting to come alive. And if I don't see with these lenses, I can often see in distortion myself and those around me and what's happening in my life. And so at the end of my little thing, I was like, my prayer is to see more with the lens of the Spirit. And as I sat with that more and more this week, I started thinking about how so much of life is painfully mundane. Like, life is, when you're not like on social media and they're making everything seem so incredible all the time, it's like actually most of life is like making breakfast and getting the kids to school and trying not to flip people off in traffic and actually talking to the Trader Joe's person who wants to know your whole life story. And, most of life is like painfully almost, to my Enneagram 4 self especially, normal and not special and not unique. But when you have a particular lens on, you're able to see all of those things in a spiritual sense, and all of a sudden they have a depth that they didn't have before. They come alive in a new way that you never noticed before. And so it's learning how to put on the lens of the Spirit to be able to see life in a way that's truly engaging. And if I don't do that, it's quite distorted, and that's where I do. I'm like, you're like, wait a second, the guy from Current just flipped me off? What's going on? It's like, yeah, I wasn't wearing Spirit lenses that day. I wasn't seeing very clearly. I didn't see the divine image within you there, just operating as you. I couldn't lost that one. So that's my encouragement to each of us in the universal today of this whole roller coaster of a conversation, is how can we learn to see the mundane with the eyes of the Spirit, to see what's actually wanting to come forth. And any place that we might be seeing things in a distorted view, maybe it's because we need the lens of the Spirit to see it. I don't know about you, but I deal with a lot of distorted images right now for what's happening in the world. And I know some folks are like, why don't you talk about some of the more current events more and addressing some of those? Because somebody else can do that. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to help us ground ourselves as I don't have to remind you what's coming off the rails. You know what's coming off the rails. And who am I to sit up here and to tell you that my interpretation of it's the way that you should interpret it too? What I do know is that the Spirit is always faithful to help me cut through the shit of it all. That's what I do know. It helps me bring it into clarity, into focus, and to not see life in a distorted view. So my invitation in this space is, help us see, God. Help us see. Help us hear. Help us act in a way that is compassionate and peaceful, that does seek justice and equanimity, but in a way that doesn't prop up my own ego in doing it. You don't need a t-shirt of an organization to serve people, to love people, to care for people. Nothing wrong with that. No shade, I've been there. We might do it in the future. People will be like, yeah, you're a hypocrite. Alan Watts told me I'm under no obligation to be who I was 5 minutes ago. So, just saying. We'll end with that. All of that was a big, long way to getting to these, because I think that was important. I sat with that all week long. So let's pray, and we'll be done for today. I invite you to stand with me. Yeah. Let's just carve a few more seconds of openness and silence before we encounter the chaos. So if you feel comfortable to close your eyes and to just still yourself for a moment. And if you feel comfortable, you can hold out your hand as if you're receiving a gift. Because I like to get my body involved and remind myself that this moment is a gift. Thank you, God, for the eternal now. Help us to make space in our own life, in our own mind, in our own heart, to see what you're up to. Help clear the distortion of our mind by seeing through your lens. Help us become familiar with space and slowness. To have grace and compassion on the ways that our inner heart and mind is frantic, wanting to get away from whatever is in this moment. Help us to forgive those parts of us that are anxiously trying to get away from what you're trying to show us right here, right now. Just take a moment to allow ourselves to hear you speak in the depth of our heart and soul. And as we move from this place, Spirit, be with us. Help us to see, help us to live, help us to be in tune, to live this incarnation with purpose. So be it. Amen. So as we close today, again, if you want to just wrap with somebody here, find somebody to say hello to. And if you want to drop in for the small group, we'll probably start in about 5-ish minutes over here. But say hello to someone, and we'll see you back in 2 weeks. Have a wonderful day.